Okay, here's a Febco 765-1 PVB valve, commonly known as an anti-backflow valve, and it's on a sprinkler system, which is its most common application. This sprinkler system wasn't winterized. As a result, the Febco valve suffered frost damage and one of the ball valves housing cracked. It's really easy to repair the Febco valve because the housing didn't crack. Only the internal plastic parts were damaged. As a matter of fact, due to the shape of the housing and the fact that it has internal plastic parts which are weaker than brass, only the internal parts will be damaged if it freezes. It's designed that way. As for the cracked ball valve, that's a bit more of an issue. The most straightforward way to repair it is to replace it. And that will require some plumbing work and additional fittings and pipe. You'd need to cut the PVC so you can unscrew everything. Then put it all back together with a new ball valve, street elbow, coupling, and piece of PVC pipe. That'll probably set you back about half an hour and $30 at today's prices. Instead, since this is outside plumbing, I chose to repair the ball valve with JB Weld fiber weld. And that only set me back less than 10 minutes and $8 and took care of the problem with the ball valve. In this video, I'm just showing how to repair a Febco 765-1 valve. If you're interested in the JB Weld fiber weld repair process, I have a video on that, and you can click on the link in the description below.
Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and overhaul this PVB valve. I already had it all apart, so I could determine what parts needed to be replaced. And as it turned out, the only part that was bad was the bonnet. None of the local hardware stores or big box stores had any rebuilding kits for a Febco 765-1 PVB valve, so I had to order it from Amazon. Since the only part that was bad on my valve was the bonnet, I ordered a minor rebuilding kit that comes with the bonnet and the poppet valve. The first thing to do is remove the rain cap, which is held by a 1/20 aircraft nut. As you can see, it's only finger tight because I already took it apart and put it back together by hand. As you can see, this spoke is cracked and this spoke is cracked. It's only held on by this spoke here. So, since two of the spokes are cracked, this bonnet won't work properly and definitely has to be replaced. It's just held in by threads, so all you have to do is unscrew it to remove it. And then you can get to the poppet valve, which basically just sits inside of the body. To remove the poppet valve, all you have to do is reach in with your fingers and pull it out. This poppet valve doesn't look that bad, although that square O-ring's a little questionable. A new one came with the bonnet, so I'll just replace it. The last component is the check valve, and that's held in down here by a retainer. To remove the retainer, all you have to do is reach in, push down a little, then rotate it till one end is free of the ledge, then angle it a little and pull it straight out. As you can see, there's the ledge which the retainer goes under, and the cutout which allows you to remove the retainer when you rotate it. Now you can just reach in and pull out the spring and the check valve with your fingers. The check valve body, spring, and seal seem to be in pretty good shape, so I'll just put it back in and reuse it. So I'll just put the check valve and spring back in and reinstall the retainer. You can easily install the retainer with your fingers, but I only put it in partially because my hand blocks the view. It's basically the opposite of removal. You first dive this end under the ledge and then push down and rotate it until both ends are under the ledge. I'll finish rotating into position with my screwdriver instead of my fingers so my hand doesn't block the view. Okay, the retainer is now in the correct lock position, but it's not properly seated. The upward facing tab of the center tang is supposed to be in a groove on the underside of the ledge. And if you look carefully, you can see the center tab is not under the ledge, it's against the ledge. So you got to make sure all those are lined up properly, so it seats squarely. And I did it with my fingers. There it is, you see? Now it's in there properly. So that's how you install that retainer. And again, just for clarity, the center tabs on each end of the retainer should fit in the groove on the underside of the ledge. And the outer tabs should be right against the edge of the ledge. The next step is to replace the poppet and the bonnet, which I'll be replacing with new. Here's the new bonnet. It comes with a new aircraft nut and a new O-ring. And here's the new poppet valve, which slides over the brass hex shaft of the bonnet. And this kit also comes with a packet of silicone grease for lubricating the O-rings, seals, and threads. The poppet valve goes in first. It just drops in and sits on top of the check valve retainer. But I'm going to pull it back out again and lube its seal with some silicone grease. If your new parts didn't come with silicone grease, you can use Permatex tune-up grease, dielectric, or Super Lube. Basically, any type of silicone-based grease will work. And you don't want to put on too much. Just apply a really thin coat, about as thick as a thin coat of paint. Now that it's all greased up, I'll drop that back in there. Okay, now that's done. Now I can install the bonnet. And again, first I'll put some silicone grease on the O-ring, and I'll put some silicone grease on the threads. It's better to secure the cap to the bonnet before you thread the bonnet into the valve. That way you can use a 3/8 nut driver, socket, or wrench to count on the force of the aircraft nut instead of relying on the plastic. And now I can install the bonnet and the cap as a complete assembly. Just take note that the poppet valve has a shaft with a bore in it. And make sure when you're installing the bonnet that the brass hex shaft goes into that bore. And then just tighten the entire assembly down until the flange of the bonnet is flush with the top of the valve body. It only needs to be hand tight because the seal is created by the O-ring. And that's it, it's done. The PVB valve, or anti-backflow valve if you like, is rebuilt and ready for service.